Have you ever walked into a crowded room and still felt like you were the only one there? Have you ever smiled at people while your heart was quietly breaking inside? Have you ever carried conversations, laughter, even success, while deep inside you whispered to yourself, "I feel invisible"? This is the story of the lonely woman. A woman who sits at the dinner table with family but feels unheard. A woman who shares an office with colleagues but feels unseen. A woman who posts a smiling picture on social media, but as soon as she puts the phone down, she wipes away tears no one will ever see. Loneliness is not the absence of people. Loneliness is the absence of connection. And tonight, we are not here to pity her story. We are here to give it voice, to honor her courage, and to remind every lonely woman listening that her story is not one of defeat, but of discovery. Loneliness is not shame, it's a signal. When we hear the word loneliness, most of us shrink a little, as if it's a confession we'd rather never make. We whisper it in our own minds, "I feel lonely," and instantly we follow it with judgment. What's wrong with me? Why can't I fit in? Why does everyone else seem to belong except me? But what if we could look at loneliness in a different light? What if instead of shame, loneliness was an invitation, a signal that something in our life is calling us deeper? Think of it like hunger. When your stomach growls, you don't feel ashamed of it. You know it's your body's way of saying, "I need food." When you feel thirsty, you don't say, "Oh, I must be broken." You simply drink water. Loneliness works the same way. It's not proof that you're unworthy. It's your heart saying, "I need connection." I want you to imagine a woman who seems to have everything together. Maybe she's successful at work. Maybe she has a family. Maybe she even laughs loudly at parties. On the outside, no one would ever guess what's happening inside. But when she lays her head on the pillow at night, a quiet ache begins to surface. She wonders if anyone really knows her. She wonders if her presence actually matters. And she wonders if, behind all the noise and business, she might be invisible. That ache, that deep quiet that fills her chest, isn't something to bury in shame. It's a signal that she's longing to be seen in her raw truth, not in her masks. A signal that she's tired of pretending. Everyday life is full of examples like this. Have you ever sat at a dinner table surrounded by people, yet felt unseen? Everyone is talking, laughing, sharing stories, but you feel like your words don't land, like your voice drifts into thin air. Or maybe you've scrolled through social media, double tapping photos of people living what looks like perfect lives, while a thought sneaks into your heart, "Does anyone actually see me?" Those moments sting, and we're quick to label them as personal failures. But what if, instead of criticizing ourselves, we paused and listened to the message beneath the ache? That's loneliness doing its work. It's not a curse, it's a compass. Loneliness asks us to pay attention. It's the way our soul leans toward the truth that connection is what we're made for. You see, we humans are wired to belong. We're not built to thrive in isolation. When loneliness shows up, it's like a gentle alarm reminding us something's missing. It's time to reach, to risk, to open. But here's the problem. Shame and silence often arrive at the same time as loneliness. We tell ourselves, "I shouldn't feel this way. I should be stronger. I should be grateful." And the word "should" is one of the cruelest thieves of peace. It keeps us trapped in the illusion that loneliness means failure. But in truth, loneliness doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It means something inside you is alive enough to want more. It means your heart hasn't gone numb. It means you're still reaching, still desiring, still human. Think about a child in a playground. When they feel left out of the game, they don't immediately think, "I must be broken." Instead, they feel it as a need. "I want to belong. I want to be chosen." And so they tug on a parent's hand, they call out to another child, they try again to join in. That is what loneliness does for us, even as adults. It's the inner tug reminding us that we are meant for circles where we are cherished, not just present. So maybe the real courage lies not in pretending we're never lonely, but in naming it, in saying out loud, "I need deeper connection. I need to be seen." Vulnerability here is not weakness. It's strength in its truest form. Because only when we name the signal can we respond to it. Think about your own life. Think about the last time you felt that pang of loneliness. Maybe it was walking into a meeting where everyone already seemed to know each other. Maybe it was sitting in your living room while the silence wrapped too tightly around you. Maybe it was scrolling your phone late at night, hoping someone would notice the small message you posted. Did you feel shame? Did you tell yourself to hide it? Or did you lean in and listen? What if, instead of burying those moments, you saw them as signposts? What if loneliness was not an enemy, but a teacher? A teacher whispering, "You're not meant to do life alone. You're built for connection. Create it. Risk for it." And let's be honest, connection doesn't always mean a crowd. Sometimes it's just one safe soul. One person you can call at midnight when your tears won't stop. One person who says, "I see you. You matter, you're not alone." Loneliness isn't asking us for popularity, it's asking us for intimacy. So if you are listening to this right now and you've been carrying loneliness like it's a scarlet letter, let me remind you, there is no shame in it. You are not broken. You are not less. You are simply human. And being human means you crave what we all crave: to belong, to matter, to be held in love. The next time loneliness rises in your chest, don't silence it. Don't run from it. Listen, let it guide you back to your people. Let it remind you of your need for connection. And most of all, let it remind you that loneliness is not the end of your story. It's simply the invitation to begin a braver, more connected chapter. Because loneliness isn't shame, it's a signal. And signals are meant to lead us somewhere, back to ourselves and back to each other. The mask of strength is one of the heaviest masks a woman can wear. On the surface, it looks beautiful. It looks confident, polished, unshakable. But behind that mask often lies a story that no one has heard, a pain that no one has witnessed, and a heart that longs to breathe freely without pretending. Society has taught us to believe that to be strong is to be untouchable, to never cry, to never admit we're struggling. But real strength is not about pretending. Real strength is about daring to be seen as we truly are. Picture this: a woman wakes up in the morning, and even though she barely slept, she puts on her makeup, fixes her hair, and forces a smile before stepping out of the door. At work, she nails every deadline, leads every meeting, and jokes with her colleagues as if everything inside her is perfectly fine. To the outside world, she is the definition of strength. But what no one sees is that in the bathroom stall, she leans against the wall, taking a deep breath just to hold back tears. That is the mask of strength. We live in a culture that praises resilience, but often misunderstands it. We glorify the woman who does it all, the woman who never complains, the woman who handles heartbreak, rejection, and betrayal as if it never touched her. But the truth is, those women are carrying invisible weights that most people never even notice. Their smiles are armor, their laughter is a disguise, their busy schedules are a shield against silence. The silence where their real feelings would finally echo. Think about the last time someone asked you, "How are you?" How often do we reply, "I'm fine," when fine is the farthest thing from the truth? We say it because it's easy. We say it because we don't want to burden others. We say it because somewhere deep down, we've been taught that vulnerability makes us weak. And so we polish our masks and wear them like medals. But here's the secret: wearing the mask of strength may protect us, but it also isolates us. It keeps us from being known. And being unknown is one of the deepest forms of loneliness. Daily life gives us countless examples. A single mother who carries 2 jobs, pays the bills, raises her children, and still shows up to school events with a smile so her kids don't feel the weight of her exhaustion. That is a mask of strength. A young professional who just went through a breakup but still posts perfect photos online, pretending life is glamorous and under control. That is a mask of strength. A woman battling grief who still cooks, cleans, and cares for everyone else while ignoring her own breaking heart. That is a mask of strength. And the tragedy is, the world applauds these masks without ever asking, but how are you really? The mask of strength is born out of fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of being seen as fragile. And yet fragility is not failure. Fragility is proof that we're alive, that we've loved, that we've risked. Imagine if instead of hiding behind the mask, we dared to whisper, I'm not okay right now. Imagine if instead of pretending to be superhuman, we let someone into the truth of our humanity. I remember hearing a story of a woman who was known as the rock in her family. Whenever anyone had a problem, they went to her. She carried everyone's burdens, listened to everyone's pain, fixed everyone's crisis, but no one ever asked her how she was doing. One day she broke down and her family was shocked. They couldn't believe that the strong one, the unshakable one, was struggling. But that's what happens when we live behind the mask. The world forgets that we are human too. The truth is, strength is not about how much pain you can hide. Strength is about how much truth you can carry in the open. It takes far more courage to take off the mask than it does to wear it. It takes boldness to admit, I'm hurting. It takes bravery to say, I can't do this alone. And yet, when we do, something powerful happens. People see us, not the performance. People connect with us, not the character we're playing. Vulnerability doesn't push people away, it draws them closer. Think about your closest friendships or the people you truly trust. Chances are those bonds didn't form because someone was perfect. They formed because someone was honest. They let you into their story. They showed you their tears, their doubts, their fears. And in that openness, you felt safe to do the same. That's what happens when the mask of strength comes off. We create the possibility of real connection. But taking off the mask doesn't mean collapsing. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human enough to let others in. It means you understand that true strength is not independence, but interdependence. It means you're brave enough to trust that you are worthy of love even when you're not performing strength. So the next time you feel tempted to hide behind the mask, pause. When someone asks, "How are you?" consider answering with honesty. When you're exhausted, allow yourself to say, "I'm tired." When you're hurting, allow yourself to admit, "I need help." This doesn't make you less, it makes you real. And real is far more powerful than perfect. The mask of strength might protect you from judgment, but it will also protect you from intimacy. You can't be fully loved if you're never fully seen. And the world doesn't need another woman pretending to be fine. It needs women courageous enough to show up as they are. That kind of strength is contagious. That kind of strength gives permission for others to drop their masks too. So if you are wearing that mask today, know this: you don't have to. You don't have to prove your worth by pretending. You don't have to earn love by performing. You are enough, even in your unguarded, unpolished moments. The real strength is not in the mask. The real strength is in the face beneath it. The face that dares to say, "This is me, and I am still worthy." Silence carries stories. Every quiet moment, every unspoken word, every tear that slips without sound has a story hidden inside it. Sometimes silence is not emptiness. Sometimes silence is the heaviest language a person can speak. And for many women, silence is where their truest stories live, unheard, unseen, but deeply alive. Think about the last time you saw someone sitting quietly, maybe at a bus stop, maybe at a coffee shop, staring out of the window. You might have passed by without thinking much. But behind that stillness, there might be a lifetime of experiences, heartbreaks never spoken of, dreams that never had a chance to bloom, battles that were fought in the shadows with no applause, no audience. Silence often hides the parts of life people don't feel safe enough to share. For a lonely woman, silence becomes a constant companion. She listens more than she speaks. She absorbs more than she expresses. She knows how to nod, how to smile, how to say, "Fine," while a whole storm rages inside her. And the world, caught up in its own noise, often misses the quiet signals she gives. We assume that silence means peace. We assume that silence means strength. But silence, more often than not, carries the weight of untold stories. Imagine a woman who has been hurt deeply by betrayal, by abandonment, or by the sting of words that cut too deep. Instead of speaking it out, she learns to tuck it inside, not because she doesn't want to talk, but because she's afraid no one will listen, or worse, that no one will understand. So she chooses silence, not as a choice of comfort, but as a necessity for survival. Every day, she walks around carrying an invisible book of stories, but she never dares to open its pages in front of others. Daily life is filled with examples of these silent stories. Think of a coworker who never shares much in meetings. You assume she's shy, maybe even uninterested. But what you don't see is the creativity inside her, the brilliance she's too afraid to expose because somewhere in her past, her voice was dismissed. Think of a mother who hides her exhaustion behind gentle smiles. She doesn't complain, but her silence holds the weight of sleepless nights, of sacrifices no one thanks her for, of dreams she quietly gave up so someone else could shine. Think of a friend who never talks about her past. She laughs, she jokes, she listens, but she never lets anyone in. Her silence is not because she doesn't have stories, but because her stories are drenched in pain she has never trusted anyone to hold. And yet, silence doesn't just carry pain. Silence also carries resilience. It carries the story of survival. A woman who has been through storms but chooses not to speak of them still carries them as part of her. Every scar she hides is still proof of battles won. Her silence may feel invisible, but it is filled with victories the world may never recognize. But here's the tragedy: when silence is never broken, the stories remain trapped. And when stories are trapped, so is healing. Because healing happens in the telling. Healing happens when someone listens without judgment. Healing happens when we release the words we've been burying for too long. Silence may protect us for a season, but if we stay there too long, it becomes a prison. Think about it. How many times have you sat with someone and sensed they had more to say? You could feel it in their eyes, in the heaviness of their sigh, but they chose silence. Maybe you even did the same. We all carry those moments where the words rise in our throats but die before leaving our lips. And each time we do, a part of our story stays locked away. Silence is powerful, but sharing is freedom. When a woman begins to break her silence, when she dares to tell her story, something shifts. The moment she says, "This happened to me," she's not just speaking words, she's reclaiming her power. She's reminding herself and others that her story matters, that her voice matters. And often, when she tells her story, she unknowingly gives others permission to tell theirs. That is the ripple effect of courage. It multiplies. But let's not overlook the beauty that silence can carry too. In the silence of her pain, a woman often learns wisdom. In the silence of her heartbreak, she learns to listen to her own soul. In the silence of her loneliness, she discovers strength she didn't know she had. Silence can shape us in ways words never could. Yet, the full beauty of silence comes only when it eventually finds a voice. If you are someone who has lived with silence, if you've swallowed words for years, let me tell you this: your story deserves to be heard. You don't have to shout it to the whole world, but you do need a safe place, a safe person, a safe moment to let it out. Because silence carries stories, but stories set free carry healing. Not just for you, but for others who need to hear it. Think about the women who have dared to break their silence before you. Their courage has changed history. Every movement, every change in society, every step toward justice has started with someone saying, "I will no longer be silent." And maybe your story, too, is waiting for that moment. Maybe your silence has carried enough, and it's time to let your voice be the bridge to connection. So the next time you see someone quiet, remember, silence is never empty. It is full of unspoken words, untold battles, unseen strength. And the next time you find yourself falling into silence, ask yourself, am I hiding or am I healing? Because silence is powerful, but your story is even more powerful when it's told. Silence carries stories. And when we finally honor those stories, we not only free ourselves, we remind the world that even the quietest hearts have the loudest truths. Connection requires courage. It sounds so simple when we say it out loud. Just connect, just reach out, just talk. But anyone who has ever felt lonely, invisible, or misunderstood knows that connection is not always easy. It takes risk, it takes vulnerability, it takes the willingness to be seen, and not just in our polished, perfect version, but in our raw, unfiltered truth. And that kind of openness doesn't come without fear. It demands courage, the courage to take off our armor, the courage to risk rejection, the courage to say, "This is me. Will you accept me?" Everyday life gives us countless examples of how much courage connection really takes. Think about the woman who has been hurt in past friendships. She once trusted deeply, only to be betrayed, talked about, or abandoned. Now, She finds herself hesitating when someone new tries to get close. Her instinct is to keep her guard up, to protect herself from future pain. And yet, deep down, she craves companionship. For her, reaching out, even for something as small as asking a friend to coffee, feels like walking on a tightrope without a safety net. That's not weakness. That's bravery disguised as trembling hands. Or imagine the single mother who has been strong for so long, who has carried burdens silently because she doesn't want to bother anyone with her problems. To her, asking for help feels like failure. But connection requires courage, and courage for her might look like picking up the phone and saying, "I can't do this alone anymore." That one phone call might be the most powerful act of strength she's ever taken. So often, we confuse connection with convenience. We think it just happens naturally, as if being surrounded by people guarantees belonging. But real connection is deeper than small talk, deeper than social media likes, deeper than casual interactions. Real connection asks us to show up fully. And showing up fully means risking that someone might not accept what they see. That is why courage and connection always walk hand in hand. Have you ever noticed how much easier it is to say, "I'm fine," than to admit, "I'm lonely"? It's easier to keep conversations on the surface than to reveal what's really happening in your heart. But connection doesn't grow in shallow waters. It grows in the deep, where honesty lives. And honesty feels terrifying because it exposes us. But without it, we're left wearing masks, and masks might impress people, but they can never truly connect with them. One of the most powerful truths is that connection begins when one person dares to go first. When someone takes that first courageous step and says, "Here's a piece of my heart," they open the door for others to do the same. Think about the last time someone confided in you about their struggles. Didn't it make you feel safer to share your own? That's how courage builds bridges. It invites others into honesty. I once heard about a woman who joined a support group after years of battling depression in silence. On her first day, she sat quietly, listening to everyone else speak. She almost left without saying a word, but then she took a deep breath and shared just one sentence. "I cry every night and nobody knows." In that moment, she expected judgment. Instead, the room leaned closer. Someone whispered, "May too." That is the beauty of connection. It doesn't require perfection. It requires the courage to let someone else see our imperfection. And often, the very thing we're most ashamed of becomes the doorway to someone else saying, "You're not alone." But let's be clear, courage and connection is not always grand gestures. Sometimes it's small and ordinary. Sometimes it's making eye contact with the cashier and offering a genuine smile. Sometimes it's writing that message you've been putting off, saying, "I miss you." Sometimes it's sitting across from a friend and daring to tell the truth instead of pretending. Those small risks build the threads that weave true connection. Of course, there will be moments when courage feels costly. You might share your heart and be met with indifference. You might reach out and be ignored. You might risk and feel the sting of rejection. But rejection is not the end of the story. It is proof that you were brave enough to try. And every attempt at connection strengthens the muscle of courage, making it easier to try again until you find the people who meet you with open arms. We must also remember that courage in connection goes both ways. It's not only about sharing our truth, it's also about creating safe spaces for others to share theirs. It's about listening without judgment, about holding someone else's story without rushing to fix it, about saying with our presence, "You are safe with me." That, too, takes courage. Because it asks us to slow down, to step outside of our own comfort, to carry a piece of someone else's heart. The lonely woman's story is often one of silence and self-protection. But when she begins to take courageous steps toward connection, when she dares to trust again, when she risks letting someone in, her story begins to shift. She learns that true strength is not found in isolation, but in shared humanity. And in those moments, the walls she built for safety begin to turn into bridges that lead her to belonging. So if you are listening to this and you feel the ache of loneliness, let me remind you, you are not weak for desiring connection. You are not broken for wanting to be seen, heard, and loved. That longing is not a flaw. It's your soul's natural hunger. And the courage it takes to answer that hunger is the kind of courage that transforms lives. Every time you open your heart, you give someone else the chance to open theirs. Every time you choose courage over fear, you bring the world closer to connection. And maybe, just maybe, the story of your courage will be the reason someone else finds the courage to take off their mask, break their silence, and reach for connection too. Because at the end of the day, connection will always require courage. And courage, no matter how small, will always be worth it. Redefining power is one of the most transformative shifts a lonely woman can make in her life. For too long, power has been measured by external standards, titles, wealth, influence, or how much control someone appears to have. We are told that to be powerful means to be loud, dominant, unshaken by hardship, and untouched by vulnerability. But true power, the kind that changes lives, doesn't look like the version society often sells us. True power is quiet, grounded, deeply authentic, and it often comes from the very places we thought made us weak. Think of a woman who has been overlooked her whole life. She's not the one people notice in a crowded room. She doesn't command attention with her voice or her presence. She walks through life almost unseen. From the outside, people might assume she is powerless because she is invisible. But within her lies a strength forged in silence, a strength built from years of surviving heartbreak, disappointment, rejection, and still choosing to rise each morning. Her power may not roar, but it steadies her. It whispers, "You've been through storms before. You'll weather this one too." That is real power, the kind that endures. Daily life often confuses the show of power with the substance of power. For example, someone at work may speak the loudest in meetings, dominate the conversation, and dismiss others' ideas. At first glance, that person looks powerful, but true power might be sitting quietly in the corner, the woman who listens deeply, who observes carefully, and who, when she finally speaks, says something so wise it changes the direction of the entire conversation. Power is not volume, power is impact. For women especially, redefining power is essential. Too often, women are taught that power means never needing anyone, never breaking down, never showing softness. But there is incredible power in vulnerability. There is strength in admitting, "I don't have it all together." There is courage in saying, "I need help." And there is authority in being authentic, in refusing to shrink or apologize for who you truly are. Power doesn't mean putting on a mask. Power means taking it off. Consider the single woman who has spent years feeling inadequate because she doesn't fit society's image of success, married, children, and a picture-perfect home. For a long time, she measures herself against others and feels powerless. But then one day, she redefines her power. She recognizes that her independence, her ability to sustain herself, to create her own joy, to make choices without waiting for validation, that is power. Her power is not defined by what she lacks, but by how she has built her own life on her own terms. Or think of the mother who quietly sacrifices for her children, giving up her own dreams so they can have opportunities. From the outside, the world might dismiss her because she doesn't hold a high-ranking job or a glamorous lifestyle. But when her children grow up and thrive, when they embody the values she planted in them through her love and dedication, we see the truth. That is power, the power to shape lives, to create legacies, to pour strength into the next generation. Redefining power also means understanding that resilience itself is a form of power. The woman who has been knocked down again and again, but keeps standing, she is powerful. Her scars don't make her less, they are evidence of her survival. Each scar tells the story of a battle won. And while society may glamorize ease and perfection, the woman who has suffered and risen carries a kind of authority that can't be faked. Her very presence becomes a testimony. If I can make it, so can you. And let's not forget the power of empathy. We live in a world that often sees compassion as softness, but compassion is power in its most transformative form. The woman who has walked through loneliness knows how to recognize it in others. She becomes the one who notices the quiet coworker, the one who sits beside the student eating alone, the one who checks in with a friend who seems fine but isn't. Her power is in her ability to make people feel seen, to create belonging where there was isolation. And that kind of power ripples outward. It changes homes, workplaces, communities. To redefine power is to stop comparing yourself to the world's shallow standards and start honoring the strength within you. It is to realize that being gentle doesn't make you weak, that asking for help doesn't make you powerless, that choosing kindness over cruelty is one of the fiercest acts of strength there is. Power is not about controlling others, it's about mastering yourself. Power is not about never falling, it's about how many times you get back up. And here is the beautiful paradox. The very loneliness that feels like weakness can become the birthplace of power. Because in loneliness, you learn resilience. In loneliness, you learn to befriend yourself. In loneliness, you discover that your worth is not dependent on applause, attention, or approval. When you redefine power this way, you realize that being alone doesn't mean being powerless. It means you've found strength that doesn't depend on anyone else. So if you are listening to this and you've believed the lie that you are powerless because you are lonely, remember this: your story may not be loud, but it is powerful. Your scars may not be visible, but they are powerful. Your ability to stand, to endure, to still choose love and hope despite the pain, that is power. Do not let the world define it for you. Redefine it for yourself, because at the end of the day, power is not about who has the microphone, the title, or the spotlight. Power is about who dares to rise when no one is watching. Power is about who chooses truth over appearances, love over fear, courage over silence. And if you've walked through loneliness and are still standing, you already carry more power than you realize.